Hello there.
Hello, Richard. How are you?
Isn't it quiet? It's just the two of us, Jamie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Isn't this lovely? No one interrupting or butting in.
That's a bit rude.
Does feel a bit odd, though, doesn't it? Just the two of us again.
Yeah, it's a bit quiet now.
Yeah. Bit sad, really, isn't it?
Oh, well.
We
miss you, Chris.
Yeah, I miss Chris. I do.
I was just checking you were talking about Chris there and not
Yeah.
somebody else.
No, definitely talking about Chris Dale.
Yeah, bless him. Well, it was nice having him along.
It was great, wasn't it? I think he really brought something, not quite sure what it was, but he certainly brought something.
It did. Thank you, Chris, for your contribution.
Yes, it was wonderful. I'm sure it'll happen again at some point.
Yeah. And your sausage pie was quite good.
Well, it was a bit of a hit, wasn't it?
Well, I mean,
no, do you know?
The sample size wasn't large enough,
well,
really.
You say that. I mean, talking about sample sizes, there was enough left over for me to take to Plymouth the next day for my lunch, I'll have you know.
I'm so glad to hear it. That's a rather nice jumper you've got on there, actually, Richard.
Right.
I would have worn the same one pretty much, but my cat has destroyed it.
Oh no! A feline accident. A feline au couture.
Yeah. Yes, she crawled up the front and pulled all the threads out.
Ouch!
So it looks it's wrecked now.
Oh dear.
Anyway,
mind you can always get some more merch at the Gerry Anderson store, of course.
Well, we've just started doing sweatshirts and stuff, so yeah, you're right. Anyway, more of that
straight in
later.
with the hard sell.
Shut up. Let's not do that. Anyway, look, Pod 27.
Yeah.
These ever increasing numbers are feeling rather nice.
They're only going upwards, aren't they?
Which is reassuring.
As you would expect.
Yes. Okay. Well, shall we just get on with it?
Oh, come on, then.
People are bored of our nonsense.
Well, come on then. Press the button.
Okay, I'm pressing it now.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
This is Christmas Control. Stand by. Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
The Gerry Anderson Podcast with Jamie Anderson and Richard James.
And are you actually well?
I'm all right. Of course, I've done that typical thing. I've come back. It's the end of our tour, as you know, the Awful Auntie tour. And my body's decided that this morning I should have a cold December probably because it thinks it's over.
Yeah.
Of course, we've got 4 weeks to go.
Oh, you can relax now.
Yeah, still got 42 performances at the Bloomsbury Theatre over Christmas. But I've got... we open on Wednesday night, so I've got a couple of days to get over it. I'll be fine, I think. I'll be all right. And you?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Is this the bit for the actual podcast?
I
I was actually just asking you
I know you were,
genuinely
but
how
you can use it if you want.
Yeah, I mean, it feels a bit odd.
What, that feels a bit odd. But the rest
it does now.
The rest of the podcast is all right.
It's got a bit meta. Anyway, all right, fine. Let's include this bit. Who are you?
Oh, I'm Richard James. Who are you?
Jamie Anderson, and this is the Gerry Anderson Podcast.
Oh, that's a relief. I thought you were calling to see if I'd been involved in an accident that wasn't my fault.
Do you get those ones where it's just like a recorded voice with the pauses in it? They're so annoying.
I know, but if you answer yes, it can sense it and it puts you through to a live operator.
Because if you don't say a word, then it cuts you off.
No, that's right. So I did answer yes. I had one just this week and I answered yes when asked the question if I'd been involved in an accident that wasn't my fault. I said yes, it put me through to a live operator, and I said that I dropped a knife on my foot and cut my toe. That wasn't the sort of accident they were interested in, it turns out. And they hung up on me.
If somebody else had dropped it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they hung up on me.
It's so annoying, isn't it?
Modern life, isn't it?
I know. Well, hashtag first world problems, but I'm sure lots of our listeners will have experienced that irritating hello.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I'm calling about the accident that you were involved in.
Oh, yes. No, I don't have... No, I know. It's awful, isn't it?
Yeah, terrible. Yeah. Right, anyway... We're not actually here to talk about those irritating calls about have you been involved in an accident. No. We're here to talk about all things Gerry Anderson.
Yes, we are, for the next, whoever knows how long. It's all the usual gubbins, really, isn't it? We've got some newsy
gubbins
coming up. We've got listeners' emails, a bumper crop this week, which is lovely. I'm going to be reading out a few tweets, because people have been tweeting us and hashtagging us, Gerry Anderson Podcast. They've been getting in touch with me, Richard N. James, and they've been getting in touch with him. I'm Jamie Anderson on Twitter. And also, of course, we have another fantastic randomizer from the absent Chris Dale.
We do.
But he's here in
he's not
spirit.
absent, really, because he's here in spirit and he's here in recorded segments.
Yes, exactly. And, of course, we have an interview coming up, I'm assuming, with somebody at some point, Jamie.
Yeah, we do. I had to slightly rack my brains and my interview archive.
Yes.
But we have got one with the rather lovely Robbie Stevens.
Ah.
And that name may mean something to you if you're a true Terrahawks aficionado or a new Captain Scarlet fan.
Yes.
He was Captain Blue in New Captain Scarlet, and Yungstar and 101 and Dix Huit and many others in Terrahawks, but you may also know him by the name Ben Stevens.
Yes,
So-
great. Well, how interesting. And, of course, we met on one of the big finishes that you very kindly dragged me in for, didn't you?
You met
Waters of Amsterdam.
on that? Yes, Doctor Who.
I know
Waters
he's
of
done lots of
Amsterdam.
stuff at Big Finish, which is very good. Excellent.
Yeah.
Very good. So now, at this point, of course, I should ask our lovely listener to head to whatever platform they're listening to us on, and you know the deal by now. You know, you've got to subscribe so that you get notifications every time a new episode appears every week, every Monday morning. Please rate us, leave us your rating, and leave us a lovely review. That would be splendid. And I suppose, well, in the next week or two, Jamie, we'll be giving the final the winner of our competition, the review competition that you were running.
Yes, it will probably give it next week,
Right.
in fact.
Yeah, remind us
So,
of that.
If you have reviewed us and let us know that you've reviewed us via podcast at gerryanderson.co.uk, then we will be picking one of you at random
Yes.
to win. What did we say they were winning? I can't remember.
Well, I know. I'm going to pluck a figure out. I hope this is correct. I'm thinking we've got about £200 worth of prizes to give away.
That probably sounds about
Yes.
right, yeah. So,
All sorts of Gerry Anderson stuff.
yeah, we've got all sorts of gubbins
Yeah.
to send your way.
There's that
So
word
make
again.
sure you left us a review. And also, double gubbins,
Yeah.
that's weird. And I'll tell you what, Richard, I know we say the subscription thing every week,
Yeah.
but I've been looking at the stats.
Uh-oh.
And I can see that there are quite a lot of you who are listening but
Yes.
not subscribing. Why would you do
Yeah,
that?
'cause
You're wasting your own time because you've got to go through
yeah.
and search for the podcast
Yeah.
rather than just getting a notification and going, yes, I'll listen
Absolutely.
to that now.
And the danger is, of course, you might well miss a pod.
And that would be terrible.
I mean, how could you live with yourself? Yeah, do subscribe.
I mean, they'd probably be all right.
Yeah.
But they would miss things like sausage pie updates
Oh.
and chat about the National Accident Helpline.
Yeah, they
or whatever
would. And
it's called.
how could they live without that? What would Christmas be without those two things?
Yeah. Oh, Richard, speaking of Christmas, we haven't mentioned our special festive
I know,
theme
we
tune.
haven't. I know, isn't that lovely? Now, how did that come about?
Well, I just thought, wouldn't it be nice if we had some, jingle bells over the
Yeah.
existing version? And I asked Benji Clifford, our lovely theme composer, masher-upper,
Yeah.
to do it, and he very kindly did it.
Ah,
Isn't it fantastic?
it's very
it makes
festive.
me feel very Christmassy
Yes.
indeed.
Are your decorations up yet, Jamie?
Do you know, not one.
No, nor me. Maybe tonight.
Yeah, that's terrible though.
I
I
know.
just
I know.
no time. No
No,
time.
indeed. So, yes, as Jamie mentioned there is an email address that you can get in touch with us on. It's podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. Please send us your questions, queries, thoughts about anything Gerry Anderson related. We'd love to hear your memories about the shows you grew up with, the kind of merch you had as a kid, the toys, the models. Did you make your own stuff? Also, we'd love to hear your audio files. We had a couple last week, which were lovely. So do send us a little message on your phone and pop it in an email to us, podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. We'd be delighted to play it out next time.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
Please do that.
Yeah, it'd be lovely, wouldn't it?
Shall we
Well, is it that
get
time?
on with proceedings?
Yeah,
There's no special intro this week.
Can we not
It's
use the
just,
choral Secret Service?
Well, at this point, I've not heard any mention of it by any
It's
of
been
our
greeted
listeners.
by resounding silence.
So I think probably that means don't do it again.
All right, fair enough.
So here's just the standard news intro. Gerry Anderson news
Tell us
this
the
week.
news.
It's quite a short segment this week, which is actually a bit of a relief
Well, yeah.
for our listeners.
Yeah,
Probably.
probably.
And one of my news items is quite generic and teasery, but I think it's worth mentioning.
Okay.
So, many of you may have spotted the new Thunderbirds cutaway garments that are all over the Gerry Anderson store.
Yes. Now, what's a cutaway garment? I mean, it doesn't have a sleeve, or there's a hood missing, or something. What's going on here?
Crotchless. No. Sorry, not that. No, it means that they are emblazoned
Oh,
with the lovely cutaway images produced by Graham Bleethman
Yeah.
of Cutaway Image
Yeah,
Fair.
various Thunderbirds, Craft, and
Exactly. So it's 1 to 5 and Fab 1,
Nice.
where areas of their exterior are exposed to reveal what's underneath.
lovely.
And they're just quite cool details and stuff. And they've been embellished by the lovely Chris Thompson with some familiar phrases describing the vehicles.
Ah,
So they're
great.
quite fun.
Yes.
But they're on all manner of things. We've got men's and women's items and unisex items like hoodies and sweatshirts.
Yeah.
And various colours too. And they're all available now.
Oh, how lovely. Now, Jamie, I'm going to ask you this. By the time this podcast goes out, it'll be the something of December.
17th.
Is there a hope in hell they'll get them in time for Christmas, or are we now looking into the new year?
So I think those items, those cutaway items, are produced to order.
Yeah.
They're manufacture on demand.
Yeah.
So they probably won't make it before Christmas. There are actually dates. If you're on the Gerry Anderson email newsletter list, then the last couple of emails will have had the cut-off dates.
Ah, great.
For wherever you are.
Okay.
If you're in Canada, I think we're already way past it because
Sure.
of the various issues with the Canadian mail service. Have you heard about that?
No.
Terrible.
Is this
And
another interesting
basically-
tangent we're going off on now?
Well,
About
it's
the
still,
Canadian
it's still
mail service?
related, but I'd feel terribly sorry for our Canadian
Yes.
chums because basically the Canadian Postal Service has said to Royal Mail,
Ah,
sorry, we're not accepting any of your stuff. So anything that was labelled up to go Royal Mail has just been sat in
Oh,
warehouses
God.
and can't leave. It's very
Right,
sad.
yes.
Anyway, so sorry to those in Canada if
Yeah.
you've been affected by that. We're working ways around it. But yeah, chances are by now you might not get it before Christmas. But still, you can order stuff and print out the order
Sure.
confirmation and give it as a
you
gift to a
could.
loved one.
That's true. Yes, nice.
So you'll be receiving this very soon.
Yeah, lovely. Building a bit of suspense there. You mentioned the newsletter. How does one subscribe to a Gerry Anderson newsletter?
Well, just go to gerryanderson.co.uk and on the right-hand side is a subscription box and you go in there and, all that good stuff.
And that'll keep you updated with all the latest happenings.
Once a week.
Yeah, lovely.
A bit like the podcast, but in written form.
Oh, that's much better. You could skim through it then, can't you?
Yeah. I mean, it'll take you 8 minutes max to read every element and every article we link to on the email,
Yeah.
whereas if you listen to this...
Oh, it goes
then-
on and on.
I know. Just don't shut up, do we? So go and grab those goodies. And there are a few exciting bits and pieces coming out next year, which links into my other bit of news,
Oh, yes.
which is having been speaking to various parties involved with Anderson stuff,
Yeah.
not naming any particular companies or people, but there are so many exciting things coming in 2019. Obviously, we're going to production with Firestorm,
Well, yes.
which is a very exciting
Yeah.
thing. But then there will be a bit of a lead time before you see any finished product. But next year there are other quite exciting things
Are there?
happening. I can't be specific
Oh,
at all.
can't you?
But no. But it's 2019 is a really good year for Anderson fans.
Well, that's exciting.
So, and you know where people will be able to hear about these things first, Richard?
Would it be on the Gerry Anderson podcast?
Well, yeah, probably with a week's delay,
Oh.
but
Oh, okay then.
yes, just via all the Gerry Anderson
Of course.
channels, essentially,
Of course.
whether it's YouTube or Facebook or Twitter
Yeah.
or Instagram or podcast or newsletter, all of these things.
Lovely.
How do we keep all these things going? I
it's
don't even
madness,
know.
isn't it?
Anyway,
So,
but that, yes,
well, so Jeff Owen, who got in touch with us on Twitter, hashtag Gerry Anderson podcast, is right when he says that there's new Gerry Anderson stuff happening right now.
what a great catchphrase.
Jeff's
I wonder where he
words,
got that
not
from.
mine. Yeah.
No, well,
I mean, so that's
no, you've never said that, Richard. have you?
that's very exciting. I mean,
It is very exciting, and there's
we're
cool stuff,
talking
and
sort of legacy projects, are we, or new stuff, or a bit of both?
a bit of both. I
Yeah.
think. Yeah.
Cool.
So, I mean, and you know about one of them.
I
don't
think
you?
I
Because
might.
We talked about.
Yeah.
So, yeah, brilliant.
Great.
So it's very exciting. You've got lots to look forward to, and you can be sure that as soon as the news is publishable, then we'll tell you about it. Stop the podcast. I've missed out a bit of news, folks. So here it is. The Gerry Anderson Super Marination Calendar 2019 is now available for pre-order from the Gerry Anderson store. You asked for it and we listened, so we made it happen. It's all been rather quick, but we've got a lovely design from Paul Holder, and it features all of your favourite Super Marination shows throughout the year and includes January 2020 as well. So pre-order it now. It'll be with you late December or early January 2019, and you'll be able to enjoy Gerry Anderson's Super Marination throughout the next 13 months.
Well, that's fantastic. So yes, I did mention Twitter there. You can get in touch with us on Twitter. Just hashtag us Gerry Anderson Podcast, or you can tweet me, Richard N. James, or him, I'm Jamie Anderson. For example, CJ got in touch asking Chris Dale, were you drunk or upset at the beginning of this week's randomizer episode on the Gerry Anderson Podcast? I thought Torchy sounded strange, but the exploits of Dick Spanner sound even more bizarre.
Well, I suppose, yeah. I think Chris was drunk and upset.
That's right. So
the natural response to watching Torchy.
That's right. This is over the last couple of podcasts. Chris has been having to sit through a two-parter of Dick Spanner. Sterling Sullivan says another great randomizer. Fond memories of Dick Spanner. You see, they all come out the woodwork, don't they? All the fans of these kind of lesser-known Gerry Anderson properties. They are out there, and they love to hear their favourite show referenced in the randomizer. Duncan Wilson, on the subject of Firestorm, says, I see there's been quite a few people asking about voice work for Firestorm. Not me, he says. I'd just be happy making the tea and bringing along a few crates of cream eggs.
Oh, yes.
So he'd be very welcome.
Can't do Firestorm without cream eggs, can we?
Yeah, lovely. So thank you very much for your tweets, and do remember, if you want to get in touch with us, you can just drop us an email at podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk.
You've got it spot on there. You always deliver it better than I do.
I'm trained, you know.
It, so that is true.
3 years at taxpayers' expense.
You're a professional actor.
At least for the next 4 weeks, yes.
Yeah, what are you doing after you finish your run? Are you going to have a break?
I'm taking a big long rest. And then seeing what comes along.
Brilliant.
I mean, it's literally like that. That's an actor's life, isn't it? I've been very lucky that I've been gainfully employed for the last 3.5 years. Well, I mean, that's an absolute rarity. But
it is. You're already in the 1% there, probably.
Yeah, too right. And a lot of that has been on tour, of course. So, a few weeks at home would be just nice.
So, Richard, I think that brings us to about the right time for listener emails.
Well, fantastic. But first of all, that was the news. That was the news.
Right, yeah.
No, I'm happy.
I mean, I did that earlier, so I'll have to now...
Oh, Jamie.
I don't know what we're going to do now.
Oh, but let's just plough on.
Yeah. Okay.
Cock up with confidence, that's what I always say. So yes, having done all that...
Can you not say that again?
It's about time we heard from you, dear listener. We have had a few emails this week. You
can start, Richard.
Yeah, here's one here from Big Al, who we know well. This is Alex Pass, who says, an audio production of Fat of the Land sounds like a great idea. Maybe give that Nick Briggs a ring in the middle of a podcast. Wonder where he got that idea from. Now, Fat of the Land, for those of you that maybe haven't listened,
can you fill them in?
Yeah. So this is a brand new theatrical production of a lost Gerry Anderson sitcom, which he wrote a treatment for back in the 80s with Ronnie Cass. I was lucky enough to get my hands on the treatment, a couple of pages or so, adapted it into a play, and it had its world premiere in Kent just a couple of weeks ago, and to which I went along with a couple of friends, and Jamie suggested it might be a good idea if we were to make an audio recording of it. And actually that's also echoed by Duncan Wilson on Twitter, who said that he loves the idea of an audio version of Fat of the Land. Never heard of it before, and it sounded interesting. Well, so we'll see what we can do. Yeah.
I'm sure that could be one of the exciting things that happens in 2019.
I mean, you just asked me what I'll be doing in 4 weeks' time. Well, maybe that's the answer. On the subject of audio, continues Alex, I was wondering if there were any storylines unmade for Space Precinct episodes, either ones that didn't make it into Season 1 or any that might have been in development for Season 2. If there were, perhaps these would make good audiobooks. I'm sure we all know a former cast member who could have a bash at reading them out. That's from Big Al. P.S. Tis the season, he says, and all that, so I'll be digging out all the festive Anderson episodes for their annual watch. Christmas just wouldn't be Christmas without them. Ah, thanks, Al. That's nice, isn't it?
It is nice.
So, any Lost Space Precinct episodes?
Well, I don't actually know. You might even know better than I do, Richard. I know that there are some listed in various places on the internet.
Yeah.
For an unmade second series.
I should imagine.
I'm not clear of the source.
Yeah, I should think there might be something out there somewhere, because I remember at the wrap party at Pinewood at the end of Space Precinct, there was absolutely talk that stages were being booked and scripts were being written for the second series. And for a number of reasons, mostly financial, that didn't happen, obviously. So I think there might be something out there. Who knows? I don't know where, and I don't know in what sort of shape.
But we know some people who might know, so we'll investigate further.
Yeah, Lost Space Precinct. Because, of course, the irony is that my voice didn't actually appear, as Orin at least, in Space Precinct. So, I couldn't really appear, could I?
No, well, I mean, you could try.
I could try. I could do my best. But yes,
you could do all the voices. I've heard your pod.
You've heard my Terry Wogan.
Well, yes. Yeah, I mean, they're not dissimilar, I suppose.
They're not. No, that's true. I hadn't considered that. You're right.
Podley Wogan. Or Terry Podley.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. No, your Podley's quite...
I could work on that, yeah.
Quite solid, I think.
Yeah, audiobooks. There were a couple of novels, weren't there? But I'm not sure of the quality. I don't know if they'd be ripe for adaptation.
Well, you read some out on Fab Live.
Did I?
Remember a little while ago about the talking Tarn baby.
Okay, fine.
Yeah. Anyway, shall we...
yes, next.
Rewind from Space Precinct back to something much earlier.
Yeah.
And we had this rather cool email in. Actually, it wasn't directed to the podcast, but via our newsletter email address, and it's from David Dietrich. David writes, "You've probably heard about the recent 7.0 earthquake in Alaska."
Right.
Do you know what? I hadn't actually.
No.
Well, I went through the big one in 1964, the 9.0 Good Friday earthquake.
Wow.
And what might be of interest to you is the loose-knit group of survivors living in Anchorage that call themselves the Fireball XL5 Club.
Oh?
Yeah. Most of them are my age, 65, or perhaps 5 years older or younger. The club gets its name from the fact that the Invasion episode of Fireball XL5 was playing on the television when the earthquake hit.
Oh.
And that all of us were watching the show at the time. In fact, it took me almost 30 years to find out how the episode ended. Our power went out just as the aliens landed, and it wasn't until I picked up a fuzzy VHS copy at a convention in the 90s that I was able to see the entire episode.
Oh, how wonderful.
The club used to meet every year on the anniversary to socialise and watch XL5 episodes, but I think the years are taking their toll on our numbers, and they're getting thinner and thinner. Or like me, they've moved to warmer climes. I hope this is of interest. Sir Gerry was a major influence on my own creative career, and I'm very happy that you're carrying on the tradition. Best wishes from David.
Well, how interesting.
I had no idea, but isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
We know that Gerry Anderson shows bring people together in all sorts of ways, whether it's online and whatever, and we, even like the Gerry Anderson Facebook page with 51,000 likes on it and that kind of thing, or the email list or the podcast, whatever. But to have a little geographically linked,
that's extraordinary,
geographically and demographically linked group there.
Yes,
over something like that is amazing.
And how amazing also that he had to wait. In the days before sort of mass DVD release, he had to wait 30 years to find out how the episode ended.
And of course, because it will have affected all of their friends locally, they will have all had the same experience. They couldn't ask anybody, and with no internet and that sort of stuff.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's something that just wouldn't happen now. So, David, thank you for that. I hope you tune into the podcast.
And Sir Gerry, there's a knighthood that should have happened.
Yeah, shame they don't do posthumous ones, really, but there we go.
Anyway, from Alaska to China. This is Paul Hyder, who says, "Hi, Richard and Jamie." Yes, hi there, Paul, well done. "I've recently been watching Space Precinct for the first time. Richard, I even managed to work out which one of the officers is Orin this week. Well done you. It gets a little bit easier, actually, when Romek pops up because Orin and Romek look very different, whereas I always felt Orin and Beazle look very similar. I've also been watching," he says, "Space 1999. And whilst I love both programmes, one thing that really annoys me are the in this episode previews that each episode has. If I don't avert my eyes quickly enough, I feel like the action has been well and truly spoiled. Jamie, can you please put my mind at rest that Firestorm won't have these annoying preview spoilers? It has to stop. Many thanks for the excellent podcast, guys. It was a real thrill to hear my audio message played a couple of months ago." And that's from Paul. What do you think, Jamie? In this episode, spoilers. What do we think?
Well, Paul, I hate to disagree with you, but I think they're a crucial part of a Gerry Anderson show. I mean, Thunderbirds has that amazing, fast-paced musical sequence at the start that shows you hints of what's to come.
Yeah.
Obviously, Space 1999. obviously Space Precinct had that too. And I would say that they're almost part of some of the most iconic shows there are. And even Scarlet, you know, if you watch the opening of the intro, the Mysterons would say, "Here's what we're going to do this week."
Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah.
So it was the same thing, really.
Yes.
No, I think they're a great part of a Gerry Anderson show, and it's not supposed to spoil it for you. It's supposed to go.
It's a teaser,
glimpse.
isn't it? That's right.
It's like a trailer built into the first.
Yeah.
In the first few minutes of the episode.
Yeah.
So we'll have to respectfully agree to disagree there.
So does that mean we will be seeing the previews for each episode of Firestorm?
Well, it's still being discussed exactly how we'll do it, but I'm pretty sure there will be elements of the episode woven into the opening titles.
Yeah.
Just glimpses, though.
Yes, of course.
So maybe we can find a sweet spot, Paul, where you won't feel like we're spoiling it.
Yes, but your appetite will be whetted.
Or just don't watch the opening titles.
Yeah.
Close your eyes and listen to the music, and you'll know when it's done.
Yeah.
And the big ultramarination thing comes and slams into the screen.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
Well, now
that's the best we can do.
I have a little story about the Space Precinct in this episode trailers.
Do you,
because
Richard?
Of course they were cut. They were put together by Charlotte, who was assistant editor on the series. That's my wife, Charlotte Serple. And I noticed as the series went along, this is before we got together, of course, that Orin was starting to appear more and more in each of them.
Oh, really?
Yes. And then finally the penny dropped, and I thought, hello, someone's being rather nice to me over there in the edit suite. And 25 years later, 2 children and a house, here we are.
Gosh, yeah. That's really lovely.
Yeah, and actually, I'm not going to say that they were often the best part of the episode by any means, but they really were. They pulled you in, I think, and made you want to watch the episode. And of course, in the States, I'm guessing, there would have been an advert break directly after that, wouldn't there?
Yeah,
before the episode
exactly.
proper.
So really, that actually, in effect, is a bit like the modern day thing of the first 5 seconds of a YouTube video trying to grab you to keep your attention before you disappear off.
That's right.
So, yeah.
It's. I mean, all television really is a desperate bid to keep viewers' attention, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the basic
really
bottom
is.
line. And all those tricks of the trade all come in very useful, I think. Yeah, anyway.
So there you go, Paul.
Yes, but what do you think at home? Do let us know. Drop us a line, podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. What do you think about the great spoiler preview debate? Let us know.
Try and put that as your email subject as well. The great spoiler preview thingy debate. Whatever it was. Anyway.
So glad you're listening, Jamie.
Sorry, I was paying attention. I was just looking ahead to the next email.
Yes.
Which is the last one for this listener emails segment.
Yeah.
Jonathan Westall.
Oh, yes.
And he writes, "Good day to you, gentlemen.
Oh, good day.
Loving the podcast. It has become routine for me to listen to it every Monday, and I enjoy every minute of them."
Oh, lovely.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Yeah.
I was very privileged to attend the Firestorm premiere back in October, and I can't wait to see a full series of it. I did try to talk to you afterwards, Jamie, but you were very busy, and I was disappointed to learn that a signing opportunity with you and the other members of the panel was cancelled, as I was hoping to have you sign my Terrahawks CD.
Oh, no.
Sad face.
Yeah.
But oh well, another time maybe. I did, however, have the privilege of talking to Chris Dale there.
Oh, well.
And he was an absolute joy to meet and discuss with his about the randomizer.
Yeah.
There you go. My ideas for merchandise are as follows, because we did ask for it. Single and double duvet sets for Thunderbirds, Captain Scarlet, etc. We'll see about that. Captain Scarlet hoodies and costume T-shirts.
Right.
Now, that's much more likely, and that's certainly a possibility. Keep up the amazing work. Thumbs up emoji.
Excellent.
From Jonathan Westall.
Thank you.
So thanks, Jonathan. Yeah, thank you for coming to the Firestorm premiere, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. We were really not very happy when we heard about the cancellation, because I'd got the whole team together. We were going to have like a load of people there. We were going to have free posters for everyone to get signed.
Yeah.
And then like 2 days before, MCM said, "Yeah, no, sorry, it's too busy. We can't."
What a shame.
Such a shame.
Yeah, isn't it?
And then but you know, the nice thing was in a way that we were just all of us were completely swamped afterwards by people wanting to chat and stuff, which was really lovely.
Yes.
And Jonathan, I'm sorry that we were just too busy to say hello, but yeah,
There will be
really
other
glad you were
times,
there.
I'm sure.
Yes, but the merch suggestions are excellent, and certainly the hoodies and costume tees are being looked into as I say these words.
Wow, excellent. Yeah, Thunderbird Better put my own teeth back in a moment. Thunder Furybird on Twitter got in touch on the subject of hoodies to say, last Friday I came out of work and saw my old college friend and they were wearing a Thunderbird 2 hoodie. Apparently they'd lost a bet and so had to wear the hoodie and shout out, "I love Gerry Anderson shows." Lost a bet?
Sounds like you want to bet to me.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, she says, no photos or video as my phone was dead. So we only have your word for that, don't we?
We do. Well, we'll have to go with that.
Yeah. Also, we're just about to head into your the next interview. So here's a little tweet again from Ian Coomer, who said, I know I'm behind, but a great interview with Nicholas Briggs on the Gerry Anderson podcast with a great insight into the Big Finish audios. I had no idea that Gerry Anderson himself wanted to get involved. That was a little tidbit revealed by in that interview with Nick Briggs a couple of podcasts back.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, he was very keen for Big Finish to do some Anderson stuff, so it's nice that
yes,
finally we have done some stuff and might do some more stuff.
Might well do, yeah. So in the meantime, if you have an email you'd like to send us, you can pop it in a cyber post to podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk.
Is that what they say these days, Richard?
That's what I'm saying.
Is that what the kids are saying?
And we'll do our best to read it out next time.
Yeah, we will.
We will.
We look forward to getting your cyber boost. Anyway,
yeah.
Shall we do the interview bit?
Yes, tell us a little bit more about Robbie Stevens. Who is he and how will we know him?
Robbie Stevens, also known as Ben Stevens in the 80s, but now definitely Robbie because that's his name. First found his way into the Gerry Anderson universe on Terrahawks, and he's got an interesting story about how he got that job via another Anderson connection.
Oh, yes.
You can look forward to that.
Okay.
And he later returned for new Captain Scarlet, playing Captain Blue, and has come back again to do Terrahawks audios and more.
Yeah.
And Doctor Who, as you said.
Yeah.
Where he played a watery monster. Anyway, you'll probably know him as... that's what they was, wasn't it? The Knicks.
Yes.
They were like, water-based.
That's right.
Yeah, monsters. But you'll know Robbie's voice for his gurgling Yungstar, probably. And we had a nice chat. So here it is. Have a listen.
My name is Robbie Stevens. I'm an actor originally, but became a voiceover artist simply by being in the right place at the right time, I think. And furthermore, I was introduced to Gerry Anderson through a convoluted trail of people, which ended up with a girl I was at drama school with called Emily Morgan, whose mother is Liz Morgan, who had worked with Gerry previously. And somehow my name got put forward by Liz, I think, to Gerry Anderson all those years ago. And, well, I'll say it before you do, but the rest, Jamie, is history.
I wasn't going to say that, but thank you for saying it anyway.
That. I've never said that before.
I hate
people
we
who
don't
say cod little phrases like that. The rest is history. I
See
know,
how many
I've
you can
never
fit
said it.
in.
I shouldn't start saying it now. No, I shouldn't.
Well, nothing gets edited out of these podcast interviews, so unlucky.
This is great. I wish I'd known that before we started.
It's always a good time to find out now. Probably before we go any further, Robbie, why... could you explain who Ben Stevens is and what happened there? Because people who watch Terrahawks will know you as Ben Stevens and be terribly confused by the fact that you're now Robbie.
Yes, I'm pretending there's a delay on the line, but actually I'm thinking about that one. Ben Stevens, all right. Oh, dear. It's a long story. I've never told it in public before, but since nobody will listen to this, it won't be very much more public if I tell you now. So it goes back to... My real name is Robert, okay? My given name. I went to school with that name, and people said that... Well, actually, one guy in particular, who was a lot bigger than me, said that that doesn't sound theatrical enough. You can't be Robert Stevens. Obviously, he was poorly educated, which is probably why he went to my school. Because obviously Robert Stevens with a PH was out there being brilliant, and he later earned a knighthood for it. But that's a different story. Also history, Jamie, but this is a bit of a theme. But anyway, the long and short of it is that he said, I think something more theatrical, something like Ben Stevens would be good. So... everybody picked that up. I was the last person to adopt it, but I complied, went with it, and it stuck into my professional career. And it came to a point where I just thought, and I think it was just a matter of where I was at the time, I thought, actually, I don't like that anymore. I'm not Ben Stevens. Whenever I sign a piece of official paper or a contract, I sign Robert Stevens. So I dropped it, and my new life was with my original name. And now there are more people who know me as Robbie than know me as Ben. It's something that's kind of become buried, except, as you say, people who've seen Terrahawks and seen it on the screen as in the credits at the end will think, no, but it was Ben who did the voices for this.
Exactly.
Yeah, a great confusion, and I apologise. But, and I don't think IMDb have caught up with it either, so I should probably nudge them and tell them.
You better do. There's so much confusion because people will say, "Don't you mean Ben?" They still say it now. So thank you for clearing that up.
That's
and
right. I don't know if I did clear it up, actually. I probably just paused.
No, it's totally clear. And I can transcribe that answer and put it as a frequently asked question on the Gerry Anderson website now.
We could also condense it into about 5 words, if you wouldn't mind. That'd be great.
That's true. Was Ben, now Robbie. Originally Robbie.
Get over it.
Right, Robs. So you've said about the Liz Morgan connection, which is bizarre and wonderful, perhaps. But how did you go from the intro to getting your little first job on Terrahawks? What was the process?
Well, that was the process. I, as far as I remember, I had very little to do with it, apart from obviously I had to go and do a test sort of audition. And I think that was at Bray. It must have been. Mm. But I mean, I was fresh out of drama school. I left drama school in 81. And I mean, it was within a year or so that I was contacted to do this. And, now I can't remember how it happened. I mean, I kept in touch with actually very few of my classmates from drama school. So maybe the flame had been lit before I left, but I doubt it somehow because the timing's not right. But the long and the short of it was that, yes, I went to Bray. It may have been a studio in town, but we did some tests, I guess, put down some ideas, and I don't remember if it was instant, the decision. It probably was. It was probably such a stunning audition that there was no one else to see after that. But actually, the creativity of that job, I don't know if I'm preempting what you're going to ask me, but we just cut to the chase here, Jamie, and tell you that the fun of doing what we did on Terrahawks in particular was that we created so much in the studio as we went along, because the scripts would arrive. There were 4 of us in the studio, plus Windsor Davis, who was only ever Windsor, so he never counted for any other character. Well, he didn't. I mean, we all knew that.
Poor Windsor.
And he said, "Oh no, I could do this." And we all said, "Yeah, but it sounds like you, Windsor." So he went back to his corner and waited for us to decide who was going to play what. But yes, we had our principal characters, and then each month there were other incidental characters that would come in, some of which stuck if Gerry liked them and had them written into other things. And it was between me and Jeremy Hitchin to decide who did what. So that was when the sort of creative juices got going, and that sort of spontaneous creation is very exciting to work with. And the girls did the same, because there were only 2 of them, Denise and Annie.
Yeah, you created a pretty large herd of voices out of the 4 of you, didn't you?
A huge herd, yes, who grazed together by the watering hole, Jamie, yes. Vast.
Down at Bray.
Sweeping across the plains of Bray.
Just skipping back slightly, Ross.
Sorry, yes, I have got it.
No, it's just, head off and do your own thing. No, when you met Dad, Gerry Anderson, I'll say Dad, it seems weird saying his full name. Did you have any awareness of the old shows that he'd done and his kind of reputation, his status? And did that then have any impact on your anxiety about going up for this job?
Well, I had been a big fan of Thunderbirds, and not so much Captain Scarlet, but the underwater one. What was that, Jamie?
It was Stingray, Robbie.
Oh, Stingray. Oh, with the ugly fish monster thing. Yeah, the baddie. Yes. No, I loved that. I had no, but I mean, as a kid, you don't read the titles. You don't care who's made it. You just want to know when it's on again. And yes, I loved both of those. Thunderbird 2, of course, was obviously the favourite. And The Mole, while we're on the subject. But
Good choice.
But thank you. But his name meant nothing until the connection was made for me, and then I felt a bit sick as I travelled down to Brighton. Anxious of making a fool of myself fresh out of drama school in front of this icon, But no, he was very charming and offered me a sick bag as I walked through the door. So very kind, all things considered, I mean, every possible convenience was laid at my disposal.
I'm glad to hear it. Okay. Also, does that then add to the excitement of not only getting to work with the man who created a show that you were a fan of as a kid, but also getting I guess, was it perceived as a relatively major gig coming straight out of drama school pretty much to be on Terrahawks?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, everyone I spoke to, I said, I've been working with Gerry Anderson. And they all knew. I mean, I was the last kid on the block, to know who he was. But yes, it was. It was a real coup. Yeah, it was a big job, big gig. And of course, there's sort of an assumption, that everything's going to be a massive success, and your career's made on the back of one job, which didn't quite work out in either aspect. But I mean, not to say that Terrahawks didn't work, but I don't think it was the success that we all hoped it would be. But it still accrued a huge number of fans. And the weird thing for me now is that I still meet people who say, "Oh my God, you were in Terrahawks, you did, oh my God, I nearly went into stew there."
It's just a natural place for you to go to.
Oh my God, amazing. You're in Terrahawks. but to know that, it did the trick, I guess.
Well, I guess you're still working now, aren't you? You haven't been drummed out of the...
It's a bit quiet at the moment, Jamie, actually, so...
Hence why you've got time to chat to me like this.
Very grateful. No, I've got to get off, actually.
Ta-ra, thanks anyway.
Not at all.
What was it like, Rob, working in that small environment with, at one end of the spectrum, Jeremy Hitchin messing around, and at the other end of the spectrum, old pros like Denise and Windsor? Was that in itself a kind of nice environment to be in, learning kind of your craft?
Yes, it was. I mean, we were the sort of young upstarts, and I think there was quite a lot of sort of, I was going to say sort of actors' testosterone, the two young lads trying to give their best. Well, trying to give their best and be brilliant. And Denise was always very calm, and Annie was Annie, who was also quite a bit of a sort of backseat character. Personality, I mean. But they were always very encouraging and supportive of all the things we tried. I mean, Denise is still, bless Annie, she's gone on, and as people will know, I'm sure. But Denise, they were both great to work with because they were very supportive, as was your dad, I have to say. I mean, he loved to hear new ideas for characters, and of course Yungstar and Stu Dapples and all those people came out of just messing around. And you need that. You need the other people to allow you to do that. I have been in situations where you just feel completely bloody stupid if you start trying things and everyone else is sitting around the microphone going, "Oh God," waiting for you to get your character. So you need that environment, and that was definitely something we had there. And Windsor too would pipe in and say, "Well, maybe if you just do that," because suddenly it occurred to me then that I was working with. I mean, Windsor Davies had a huge reputation for, It Ain't Half Hot Mum and others at that time, and suddenly I was sort of touching the coattails of greatness in a studio that, in its own right, had links to a fabulous past down there at Bray, and it was very humbling, and but at the same time, you felt the energy of maybe it's a bit trite to say it, but you did feel that sort of presence and that energy of the history of the other people who've been there, and there was something to draw on from that.
Yeah. The spirits of productions past.
Yes, indeed. Gosh,
Yeah.
I wish I could come up with phrases like that.
It's fine. I had the whole time you were waffling on to come up with that, so it was ideal.
I've just doubled my fee for this, by the way, as a result of that flippant.
Oh no, disaster. We might have to cut the whole thing. In the hope that we can renegotiate, Robs, have you got a favourite character from Terrahawks, voice-wise?
One of mine?
Well, ideally one of yours. I mean, you could say another character, another actor's character.
I always loved Windsor's character. Actually, he did, as right, if memory serves me right, he played two characters. He played Sergeant Major. What was his name? Zero? What was
Zero,
it?
yeah.
It was Zero. It's a bit sad, isn't it? I can't remember. Sergeant Major Zero. And the Indian doctor, who I think
That's it.
tended Einstein at one time. And he was brilliant at that, but it was so obviously Windsor with an Indian accent. But I always loved because he just had that. He absolutely had it right from the beginning, that character, and it was brilliant. And I loved it. Never wavered. It probably got a little bit more characterful and colourful as the time went on, but as they all do. I mean, that's another interesting thing about long-term characters in long-running series, is that the characters obviously develop and people get more relaxed with the voice they're using or the sides of the character that we don't see all the time. And Zero was one of those. I think Stu Dapples was another that became more flamboyant and wacky as he went on.
I was going to say the same word.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
101.
Yeah.
Probably the only one that was still constrained was Hudson, because of the very nature of the fact that he was Hudson, and he wouldn't allow any silliness. But never. But I mean, I if I had a list of all the characters I played, I probably wouldn't remember half of them because there were so many. But those principals were great fun.
But can you give me a favourite of your own characters? I mean, was Yungstar a joy or was it a pain because it was horrible in your throat?
No, it did, never hurt my throat. I mean, I always based it on that French R. Yeah, is that, which isn't actually French, but it sort of is. So it doesn't hurt the throat at all. But actually probably Stu Dapples, I think, my favourite of the
good
ones
choice.
I did. Yeah, I loved Stu. I mean, there was talk at one time, and it was only talk, I think, that there would be a bit of a spin-off for Stu, just as Frasier came from Cheers. My golly, if we'd had half the success with the Stu Dapples show as Frasier has enjoyed, we wouldn't be doing this now, Jamie. We'd be,
Well, we would, but we'd be doing it on the telly.
we'd be doing it in the Bahamas, love.
Oh, yeah, that too. Robs, I just have to. You can pad away. I will keep this on. But my dog has pulled an empty box off of a table, and I've now got to get it off of her. So bear with me a second because it's crackling in the background.
This is great. This is a live podcast for you people. This is why we do it. I'm going to have a drink of water while he does that.
She's a naughty little thief.
She is.
Sorry.
And she go, let me see her. Which one is this?
It's the Dachshund. No, she's sulking because I stole her a packet that I had some sort of Danish pastry in. Anyway.
And you wonder why you're
Bray...
looking so well. Danish pastry. Jim, come on.
Oh, it's such a pleasure talking to you, Robs. Now, Terrahawks came to an end in 1986. Do you remember the call or hearing, or had you moved on by then?
Do I remember the call? The what?
Did you must have got a call from your agent saying they're not renewing or
they're not
something
renewing.
like that, or were you onto something else?
I excuse me, I'm just going to take some clothes off, Jamie.
Thank goodness this isn't a video podcast.
Oh, it is. I'm recording on my end. I think I was disappointed. Yeah, I was disappointed because I loved those lunches at the Fat Duck or whatever it was we went. And Jeremy drank too much and Your father drove us around in his Rolls. I mean, it was great. But, no, I mean, yeah, I was disappointed when it came to an end. I was. I don't remember the call specifically, but clearly, it had been a part of my life. And those regular jobs you look forward to for a number of reasons, not least just coming together with the other people again and, making some movie magic in the studio. But we never did any of that, so, It was sad. It was sad when it went.
It was sad, but you moved on.
We moved on. Yeah.
So you wouldn't, I think I'm right in saying you wouldn't actually work with Dad again for nearly 20 years. Is that right? From the end of Terrahawks?
Well, I'm trying to think, because I did do, and I can't even remember what it was called, Jamie, you'll probably know this. We recorded some things I even remember the studio in London. But then that all moved to a studio in Gloucester. Do you remember this story?
No, you should go ahead. I'm
do you know, I don't know what it was. And I got to say, I didn't have a great time on that. I don't remember what the show was. I don't know if it went anywhere at all. I don't even know if it got made. But there was some disquiet in the ranks, whether it was the writers or the directors. I mean, the studio issue was one thing. Suddenly we all had to traipse to Gloucester instead of central London, which is always more convenient, or at least for most people. And I don't know what happened to that. And it was one of those, it was a weird job, Jamie. I mean, you don't have to use this, but now that you mention it, I mean, I'm sure it was an Anderson thing, and there was just a very strange energy about it. And I have to say, there was a bigger cast, and I did not push myself forward to get more of the little parts. I just thought, I'm going to let other people fight over these pickings, because there's just something about the whole thing didn't feel right. And sure enough, I never heard any more of it. I don't know what happened to it. I mean, we recorded quite a few.
I'm wondering if that was GFI. Does that ring a bell?
Yeah, might have been.
Kind of early 90s, maybe 92, somewhere around there.
Probably around there.
Yeah, so they completed one episode of that cartoon in Russia. That's where the animation was done, and it was so bad that the whole series was cancelled. So I didn't know that you did a voice on that. There you go. So
I did probably several, but that was my memory. We started at Tape Gallery in Lexington Street, and I think that was too expensive, frankly, because it's central London studio rates. So we moved to somewhere in Gloucester, which no one could find. I think we went up there a couple of times. But yeah, I mean, I think trouble with directors, writers, budget, Russians.
Yeah, that was a that series' fate was sealed from the very beginning, I think, unfortunately, and something that no one will ever see because it's really rubbish.
Have you seen it?
I've got the first episode. It's terrible.
Is it really bad?
Goodness me.
Send it to me. I'll identify the voices I didn't do.
Okay, perfect.
All of them that I didn't put myself forward for, yeah.
It had some interesting ideas, but I just missed the mark for some reason. Okay, so my statement that you didn't do anything for 20 years with Dad is not true, but we could say nothing that was transmitted for 20 years.
You could say that, yes.
Yeah,
that is
we'll
true.
say that in that case. So what were you up to in those intervening 20 years? Just hoping that you get another Anderson project at some point.
Yes. Well, that, I thought I'd better get on with my life in other departments, because that didn't happen immediately. So, bit of acting, because principally, I trained as an actor, and I went did a lot of theatre at one point, and then when I was working in the West End, I was in Wonderful Town, a show there, musical, and one of the girls in the cast, her voiceover agent, came into the show one evening, and the next day she came to me and said, you should talk to my agent. They're quite interested in you last night. So this is long before the days of internet and all that sort of stuff, websites and stuff. So I called them anyway, and that led to them taking me on. And then really my work became voiceover work. I did more theatre after that, but that declined almost more rapidly than my voiceover career climbed. And I had a few very good years as just doing voice, and that's that's what I've done in the intervening 20 years. That's largely what I did. I was going to say that the funny thing about when I first got the Terrahawks job with your dad was that I wasn't vying to be a voiceover artist. I just wanted to be an actor and get some money and do anything, which is still true, by the way, Jamie. So make a note of that. But
Duly noted, Robbie. Thank you.
Thank you. I know you know that. But it's funny because it was one of the best gigs I ever did, and yet I didn't see the writing on the wall, which was simply, you should probably do more voiceover work. So I went on pursuing theatre until this strange incident in the West End some years later. This was 88, 89, possibly even 90, that I got my first voiceover agent. And then really, as I say, that the power was handed from theatre to voiceovers for me.
And a happy transition.
Oh, very happy. Absolutely very happy. I mean, it doesn't take an actor long to work out that if you can sit down, for one thing, sit down, read it as many times as you like, and be out of the studio in 20 minutes and earn about 10 times as much as you would in a week in the theatre, you've got to see which side your toast is buttered there.
Very sensible thinking. And in that intervening patch, Robs, is there anything that people might recognise you from voice-wise?
No.
Games or anything like that? Games, telly? No, nothing.
No, nothing.
Just...
Games. Games I did, telly I did. In fact, got a crib sheet here, Jamie. Hold the phone, please.
Okay. He's just gone off to get his CV, I think.
Hold the line, caller. I came across this the other day, which is an old CV, actually. Years old. But
go on, give us the CV highlights, Robs.
I mean, really, what do you want to know? Toyota, Sony, Huggies Pull-Ups, The Sun, Branston Pickle. I remember that ad. I remember the words of that ad.
Do you want to deliver it now?
Yes.
Or do I have to pay a fee?
No. Well, for you, Jamie, yes. New Branston Hot. That took me an hour to record because they were all pissed. There were 6 executives sitting on the sofa. I remember the studio. After lunch, I was called at 2:00. They arrived about 10 past. And that was the script. They gave me 2 copies of it. I don't know why.
Amazing.
That was the script. New Branston Hot. And I did it, New Branston Hot. Then there was a bit of a conflab and they came through and said, could you try hitting the new, Robbie? Right. New Branston Hot. Okay, right. I think we need to hit the Branston, hit the brand. Okay. New Branston Hot. No, it's quite good. Robbie, could you hit kind of all even, and this went on for an hour. I think we did about 36 takes. And we ended up with, guess what? New Branston Hot. And but having said that, the suffering was worth it, because back in those days, you signed a contract, you were paid residuals, and that earned me a huge amount of money. Ridiculous.
Those 3 words.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing.
Anyway, and the list, my darlings, the list goes on and on and on. But yeah, I mean, some lovely radio and TV ads from the good old days. But the thing is that the voiceover industry has changed now, Jamie. And yes, I do games. I was on Fable 2 and Assassin's Creed. Little Big Planet, various other things, none of which I play. I don't even know how to hold a PlayStation thing box. Exit. Controller, thank you. We can take that again. I don't even know how to hold a game box controller X Factor. So, but
so you never hear yourself.
What's that?
You've never played with yourself.
I've never played with myself in the front room. Like, I know we're straying into an area, Jamie, they probably don't want to know about.
No, we should probably pull back from this very quickly.
But it has changed. It's more about doing lots of little things now than a few big ones, as it was then. And of course, there were some people who did a lot of big jobs. It's that same old straying we're doing. No, I mean, there were. I remember. Can I tell you a quick anecdote to bore the listeners? Oh, they've already turned off. How rude! Oh.
Yeah, that's it. They're gone now.
All right.
Go on.
Okay. Well, back in the day, and this is going back to the early 90s, there was a guy called N. Rytel. I don't know if that name rings a bell, but he was quite brilliant as a voiceover artist, is what he did. And he almost literally ran from studio to studio in Soho, one job to the next, all day. And I remember going to see a new agent. I was wooing them rather than the other way around, which is never a good way to do it, children, let me tell you now. But they were showing me around the office, and the lady said, "All right, now this is where we keep our TV contracts for the voiceover artists." There were two sort of waist-high filing cabinets side by side. So this is where we keep the TV contracts. She said, well, this is where we keep the TV contracts for everyone else, pointing to one of them, and this is where we keep Enritel's. That was the other filing cabinet. So that was how well he was doing.
Good for him.
Oh, absolutely. No, he was a lovely fellow. I worked with him several times, and in the studio, what he did so well, actually, was to entertain the client on the other side of the glass. And I swear that's what got him back, more often than just the fact he was also quite brilliant. But, he gave them a good hour's worth. So it was a good lesson. It's about the people you know, not necessarily what they can do or can do for you, but it's about working with nice people. And I think that's a good part of why N did so well. It's probably why I have not done so well, because frankly I'm a bastard when it comes to it.
Robs,
come on.
Self-deprecating stuff. Oh no, I was going to say, come on, now, because after all this TV and game and messing about stuff, you did end up rejoining an Anderson show in 2005, didn't you? New Captain Scarlet.
Indeed.
So how did that happen? And also, why? Blooming Jeremy Hitchin was back again.
Yes,
get rid of that bloke.
by invitation.
Like a bad smell.
Yes.
Yeah. So what happened? And tell me about coming back.
Actually, bless Jeremy. He's a very, very good egg, that man, and one of my favourite people. But Jeremy actually rang me and said, "Oh, did you know that Jerry's putting Captain Scarlet back together? You should go up for it." And I said, "Well, I don't know anything about it. When is the?" I didn't. When are the auditions? He said, "Well, I've just done mine, and you should call him." So I called him, and when I reminded him who I was, he said, "Well, you should come in. We're doing auditions tomorrow." So anyway, blah blah blah.
Whoever you are.
Whoever you are. Yes. And because I think by then I was Robbie Stevens, so I made the point of making sure that he knew I had been Ben. Well, that was enough to confuse him, I think. But I still got to be there and do an audition for him. And he specifically made me audition for Captain Blue. And that was that, apparently. And you see, this is the nature of the chap, because Jeremy Hitchin actually didn't get a permanent part, as far as I remember, in that show. He would come back and do bits and pieces. But bless him. I mean, if he hadn't rung me to tell me, he may well have had the role that I had, so I'm forever in his debt. And believe me, I am still paying it off. He exacts a very high fee for this sort of favour.
Well, I love the fact that both of you all major Anderson roles came through somebody else suggesting you'd call in or putting you forward.
Yeah, it's nice that, isn't it? I mean, I personally, I think there's a lot of that in this industry. I may be deluded, but I mean, and it's a funny thing, Jamie, you can't be all things to all people. We maybe think we're awfully good at what we do, but I don't think there's a soul out there who can honestly put their hand on their heart and say, no, I can do anything. I can do anything for you. Do you want that? I can do that for you. And I'm the first to recommend. I love recommending people, actually, because when it comes back, the gratitude and all that sort of stuff, and you see these people rise to meteoric stardom that I've never had, and you think, I did a good thing. My life has been worth it.
You're so selfless, Robbie. But when you came back to join that 2005 cast, how did it compare to how many years before, 19 years previously on Terrahawks? Was there a similar sort of creative vibe? Were you more constrained, different crowd?
Well, it's certainly a different crowd. And it was a very different studio. It was the most enormous space. We recorded in this converted barn in It was sort of Buckinghamshire, wasn't it? Do you remember what it was called? The Stables or something, wasn't it? Or the old forge? Or...
Sounds familiar, but I don't know, I'm afraid.
And we traipsed up there every month. It was a major trip. I think I was living in South Wales at the time, and I picked up Jules de Jong at Reading, and then we drove on up. But yes, it was different. We worked with different directors. That was fun. Different writers. And, of course, Wayne Forrester, who has since become a very good friend as well, who had done a wonderful theatre show, which I happened to catch, not knowing him, but just wanting to see the show some years before. And that was his sort of Thunderbirds homage, which was fantastically funny and very clever. And he hasn't changed a bit. I mean, you start mentioning, a spacecraft battle, and he'll give you all the sound effects and gunshots and explosions.
He's great for that.
He's great fun, yeah. Who needs SFX when you've got Wayne Forrester? So there was...
That's on his CV as well.
I hope so. Should be his strapline. So there was Wayne and Jules and, I'm struggling. Lovely guy,
Nigel Plaskett.
Plaskett, the puppeteer. Jeremy, of course. I think it was there one other? Yes, there was. There was Mike Thingy, who played Colonel White. Come on, Jamie. IMDb. quick.
I can't. I'm going to have to look it up. Isn't that terrible?
But yes,
Anyway,
I think it was a core of. Mike. Was it a core of 5 of us, and then
Probably.
Jeremy and odd others, or the odd other, would come in and provide incidental characters sometimes. Yeah.
Mike Haley,
the very man. What a voice, my God. I don't know if he's still out there. Strangely, I've never bumped into him since.
It could be because he's avoiding you, Robbie.
It could be. He probably thought, if he was doing this interview, he'd be saying, yeah, I nearly bumped into Robbie several times in Soho after that, and I just went the other way. No, it wasn't that bad.
Hopefully I'll interview him and find out.
Yeah, you would. You would too. I know Jules is out there somewhere doing it. Jeremy's certainly around. So, yeah. A good crew. And Nigel, I think I saw Nigel's name on some animated thing some time ago. Because his passion, he was a puppeteer or a marionetta or whatever you call them, wasn't he?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, very talented. He played, the worst of the bad guys, of the Mistrons. Or
Captain Black?
Captain Black, yes.
I'm glad you remember so much of this in detail. Although it was a long time ago.
Listen, I told you not to call.
Yeah, don't worry, I won't call again, no problem. So you finished New Scarlet, and how did you all feel about that show when you saw the finished product?
We thought it was fantastic. I think uniformly thought it was excellent. Really loved the sort of production values on that. I thought the animation was fantastic, and voices outstanding, etc., etc. There was an issue, I think, with quality control at one point.
It was quite a turbulent production on the CG side, particularly. Yeah. So,
you could see that if you'd seen them from the beginning, you could. Even as an amateur, and I call myself an amateur when it comes to looking at the detail of pictures like that. But yeah, it wasn't as smooth. The characters were less detailed. There was less sort of three-dimensionality to them. But the first few were excellent, yeah. And I think very sad when it didn't renew, because again, that was something we thought, you'd be picking up and refreshing an old audience and hoping that it would find lots of a big new audience too. And I, quite honestly, Jamie, I don't know. I think things came and went. Things were batted back and forth, but eventually it got dropped. So that was our
well, I think a lot of that was down to the distribution, unfortunately. It suffered from terrible broadcast slots and all sorts of other problems. And that's one of the major things, actually. Dad was very lucky in the 60s and 70s and the 80s that they found a sort of family viewing slot for those shows. Which I think it still does exist now, but the broadcasters don't tend to service it in the same way. Right. I think if you'd had that, if you'd had New Scarlet on Sunday afternoon at 5:30, 6:00 in the afternoon on a weekend, then it would have been a different story. But yeah, a great production. You then found your way back to an Anderson project in about 2014, 2015, didn't you, Robs? Would you like to tell me how exciting that was?
Are you talking about Big Finish?
I am, yes.
Well done. Yes. No, that was actually very thrilling because it meant getting together. Apart from the fact that I think there was only 3 of us were going to do it, because Windsor had gone and buried himself in the depths of France somewhere, and no one could dig him out. And Annie, bless her, had died by this time, I think, or was too ill to join us.
No, she'd passed away.
She had gone
before.
already. Yeah, bless her. Yes, the call came. I think you initiated it to say, "Oi, we're going to do some audio versions, a whole new lineup, a whole new, stories of Terrahawks. What do you think of that?" Long pause, insert beeps, all that.
Yeah, of course.
But no, I was absolutely delighted. No, I was thrilled about it. I thought, wow, this is amazing. Are we going to do this all over again? And of course, there's that slight anxiety that you wonder if you can rekindle the voices and the characters. But I think for the most part, we managed to make a way through it. And of course, Beth Chalmers joined us as Annie's replacement, and also provided not only superb impersonation of Annie's characters, but also some wonderful new ones, which she really got stuck in and became a part of the team.
She did really well to the group, didn't she?
She really did. And Jeremy filled in for Windsor's characters, which again, he did with great Jereminess, which is always over the top.
That is an excellent
and quite brilliant.
Adjective,
Quite brilliant.
Yes.
Yeah. Windsor Davies is a hard act to follow, but I think Jeremy made it his own, and accrued a new respect from all of us for managing that, and also won some new fans for his versatility, really, which he is fantastic.
Yeah. And how, again, if you can sort of pin it onto a feeling, how did that grouping feel, despite the fact that we were recording 30 years later from the original Terrahawks run?
How did the grouping feel? It felt very good. Denise had lost none of her that ability to, go from a crazed old haggard to a sort of almost like a childlike voice. And she must have been well into her 80s when we started these. Surely.
I guess she would have been 86 when we started.
Sorry, Joe. I've had to pause. I made myself a protein drink before we started this, thinking for an endurance event like this, you need good support.
Don't worry. I'll let you go soon, and then you can... I saw you dribbling it there just now. Very good.
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Very Yungstar character sort of trait there, drooling.
It's a granite smoothie.
So we did 3 whole series of Audio Terrahawks.
I lost count.
Well, we did. So now, if you combine the TV stories and the audio stories, Terrahawks is the Anderson series with the most episodes of any of them. I'm pleased to say.
So am I. I'm glad to hear it.
So yeah, no, we had great fun doing those, and since then, Robs, you've also joined me in a few Doctor Who stories for Big Finish, haven't you? All that sort of bits and bobs. What else are you up to?
Walking into Big Finish to do Terrahawks, opened the door to a lot more things there, which has been great fun because doing the Doctor Who things, the Avengers, I want to say Thunderbolt and Lightfoot, is that right? It's not right, is it?
Jago and Lightfoot?
Jago. That's the fella. I can never remember that one. But and working with some lovely people and being extremely well fed along the way, as you'll know.
Yes, any Big Finish fan will have heard about the lunches. And if you're not a Big Finish fan, then go to bigfinish.com and check out Robbie's stuff, obviously, but especially Terrahawks.
Yeah, no, it was great. And as ever, a lot of fun, very creative. I think the stories got a bit lighter, a bit more frivolous. We were able to let even more of the hair that we had lost down. I'm trying to... This is not working, but you know what I mean? We were able to let our hair down a bit more, even though in the intervening years, clearly, some of us had lost some.
Yes.
But, no, great fun. Great fun. Great characters. I particularly remember playing a character. It was a game show host, and we based it on Johnny Vegas, didn't we? Johnny Vegas, which I got to play.
Yes. He was Psy Splitter, the cyborg.
Splitter, that's right. You see, I mean, what a stupid idea for a storyline, but it was brilliant. Wasn't the idea that they'd make them all laugh their pants off so they couldn't possibly concentrate on the invasion? It was that sort of thing, wasn't it?
Yes.
Brilliant. You see?
Yeah. That was a Terry Adlam storyline.
Oh, really?
So obviously it was filled with puns and ridiculous gags.
And very bad one-liners, most of which were mine. But it was great. Great fun. So, I really, really enjoyed those. And I think, again, it was sad when it came to an end, but, hey, go out when you're on top. Leave them wanting more, Jamie.
Yeah, I think we've done exactly that. There's still quite a few people who email and ask, is there going to be more? So, not for now, sadly. Rob, I will let you go in a minute. I just wanted to ask you if you could try to distill Gerry Anderson-ness into a couple of sentences. What is it about those shows, do you think, that ties them together, other than the creative force behind them?
Well, I think since I, like so many people, was brought up on them as a child, and I enjoyed them for the adventure and the excitement and the, I think there was a dynamism and an energy about the storytelling. As an adult, you appreciate them at a different level, more of irony and sarcasm and fun, sort of almost not quite adult humor, because it wouldn't go that far, but there was, what I'm saying is that there's a broad appeal to the shows, good storylines, great characters that people can really enjoy following. So a broad appeal, I think, really, but also a sense of just quality, and that everyone involved seems to really pull out the stops to give their best, and I think it shows in the end product.
What a lovely summary. Very nice. Yeah, no, I completely agree. Robbie, you've given me more time than I deserve. If a listener would like to find you, if the listener, our one listener, would like to find you online, how can they do that? Are you on Twitter or other places?
I am on Twitter. I'm on Twitter, and I tweet occasionally. So, and most of it's very frivolous. So you can certainly find me on Twitter. I am on Instagram. Again, it's all fairly trivial. But such is my life, Jamie.
Well, such as everybody's on social media.
But most of the regular media. Yeah.
Okay, so, excellent. Robs, thank you very much for your time.
It's a pleasure, Jamie, really. It's been fun.
Well, how interesting.
Yeah, what a lovely chat.
I love that moment he was talking about... he was dating Liz Morgan's daughter, I think that's how he...
Yeah, Destiny Angel's daughter.
Yeah, you see, and it's all these little, accidental meetings, and, Charlotte often says, because we met on Space Precinct, I know it's all about me at the moment.
A little bit,
But this is a lovely story. George Michael's song, A Different Corner?
I don't actually know that song,
people
but
out
I'll
there
go
might
listen
know
to
it, yes, and it's one of Charlotte's favourites because when she was working for TVAM, I think it was, she happened to be walking past an office and heard someone saying, yeah, there's this new Gerry Anderson thing starting at Pinewood. They're looking for assistant editors. We're just on the lookout. And of course, she then stopped in her tracks and poked her head around and said, oh, I might be interested in that. And she often thinks if she turned a different corner at that moment, we'd never have met.
Yeah.
So it's all these little incidental meetings. It's funny, isn't it? And they lead to great things.
It's funny
sometimes.
how these things happen. Yeah. It's lovely, really.
Yeah. Good old Robbie. He was a nice chap when I met him at Big Finish. Very enthusiastic.
He still is a nice chap. And he loves a bit of cycling, and he's got border terriers. So
right.
There's some other nuggets that weren't in the interview.
Excellent. Very good.
So that's that.
Yeah, so we could hear his work, I suppose, on any Terrahawks DVD or the Big Finish box sets that you produced over the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, and they're actually reduced in price over at bigfinish.com currently.
Excellent.
If you want to pick up those.
Very good.
And I'm sure we'll be working with him again in the future because he's got a great range. He's very versatile on the voices.
Yes, he's very, very good. I know. It puts me to shame. Now, we've had a couple of people get in touch with us via Twitter. I just thought I'd read a couple of these out just before we head into Chris Dale's remarkable randomiser. Robert Monk has made a sad discovery, Jamie. He says that all the Anderson soundtracks have been removed from Amazon Music. He was just about to test his new headphones with Barry Gray's Stand By for Action, but couldn't find it anywhere. Well, that is a shame, isn't it?
Well, it is, but that's just got me thinking.
Yeah.
You know why things are normally removed from a service, right?
No.
Well, it's either rights issues
Yeah.
or a deal's come to an end, but sometimes it's because a new deal has been done elsewhere.
Okay.
That means the previous one has to end.
Right.
Now, I don't know, I'm speculating.
Yes.
But
So all may not be lost.
it would... I'm going to make a prediction here,
Yeah.
which is that something is going to happen with those soundtracks in 2019.
Well.
Because I can't think of any other reason. And I may have missed something.
Yeah,
but
yeah. Okay.
Let's hope that cloud has a very silver lining.
Okay.
Can something be very silver?
Yes.
I don't know.
Every cloud has a silver lining. Yeah, that's very good. Okay, great. Well done, Robert. So keep your ears peeled for that. It's the phrase that we've just coined, I think, a couple of podcasts ago.
Yes, of course, and nobody emailed in to correct it, so that is
So
the
it
official
stands.
phrase. Keep your ears peeled.
Exactly. The Incompetent Pilot, which is a great Twitter handle, also said, what has Jamie Anderson and Richard James done to me? I'm watching Anderson shows almost daily now instead of one a week. Also, amazing catching up with the podcast to and from work. So entertaining. As a big Anderson fan, I generally watch 1 to 2 episodes a week as I owned every released Gerry show on DVD. But your entertaining podcast sent me into daily Anderson overdrive, and I love it. Keep up the brilliance. Thank you very much to the Incompetent Pilot.
That's great to hear.
Yeah.
I'm really glad to hear that.
Daily Anderson overdrive. That's very good.
DAO.
Yes.
There's another Anderson TLA.
Yeah, we love all that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
shall we head into,
I think we've
what do you
waited.
call it? The remarkable randomizer.
That's what it is. With the randomizer general himself, Chris Dale.
Yeah. Well, was that it?
Well, no.
Should we go to it now?
No, not now, because you've
I
blathered
just
on
thought that was a
afterwards.
really good. But that was a really good. Do it again. That was a really good intro to it.
What?
So go on, Richard. What are we doing? What are we listening
It's
to?
time for the remarkable randomizer with the randomizer general himself, Chris Dale. Thanks.
Brilliant.
Well, here we are, Marina, back on Moonbase Alpha. It's been a while since we last landed here, hasn't it? But they did say that we had to give the Eagle an MOT before the end of the year. I don't know, I think she's held up reasonably well over the last few months, hasn't she? Well, maybe she does need looking at, especially if we're going to get you back to Marineville for Christmas next week. And Commander Koenig did say he was going to send someone out here as soon as we landed to see what needs to be done. Oh, I wonder who it might be. Alan Carter, maybe? Or Maya? Oh, I'd love to see Professor Bergman again. Oh, here they come.
Hello, Chris.
Shameen. Oh, hello.
Oh, I hate you!
Whoa, calm down, Shameen, calm down. I promise I'm not an ogre.
Oh, you're not that.
Well, good. Okay, look, I was wondering,
Oh, you're a hypocrite.
do you need to sit down?
It's okay.
Oh, good. Anyway, I was wondering if maybe you'd like to press the button on the randomizer for me today.
Oh, don't touch me!
I'm over here, nowhere near you. Look, it's just the big red button right there. If you could.
It's all right, I understand.
So, are you keeping well?
Look, why are you asking me all these questions? I haven't done anything wrong.
Oh, never mind. Right, what episode do we have today?
This one's very special.
Well, it's, special to certain people. Not one of my personal favourites, but...
You think it's my fault?
Yeah, let's keep taking the tablets. Anyway, as I was saying, it's not one of my favourites today, but a certain co-host of this podcast is going to be very excited. Here's Space Precinct with Illegal. Well, here we are back with another episode of Space Precinct. Now, there are episodes of each of the Gerry Anderson shows that I love, and there are always at least one or two episodes that I absolutely detest. And then there are a handful of episodes across the whole Gerry Anderson canon where whenever I sit down to watch it, I always go into it thinking, oh no, I really don't like this one. And then by the end, I'm reminded, oh yeah, actually I kind of do like this. There is enough here to enjoy. And there's very few episodes like that. I think the only one I can immediately point to would be Devil's Planet from Space 1999. It's like every time I go into it, I'm thinking, oh no, this is very cheap, tacky 50s Planet of the Women nonsense. And then actually, by the end, I'm thinking, no, this is a really good story. So I'd be interested to see what I make of Illegal this time round.
Ladies and gentlemen, entity.
Now, when I did my review of Deadline, I knew going into it that Pike was played by Mr. Richard James. I was just teasing you all by pretending that I didn't know. This time we'll go in right off the bat and say, yeah, this is Richard playing Creon Wrestling manager Chappie Kobana. I don't think he's doing the voice in this one. It sounds like Wayne Forrester, so it probably is. And I'm sure that Richard will be able to fill us in at the end of this episode with some interesting trivia and anecdotes about this one. It's always great to read his book, Space Precinct Unmasked, which is a great book anyway. If you haven't got it already, I thoroughly recommend it. Richard, my money will be in the post tomorrow, please. But it's a really terrific book, and it's always great to read his thoughts on the series generally, because there isn't much sort of in-depth analysis about Space Precinct as a show overall out there anyway. But it's great to read the accounts of someone who was there working on the show, and also to read his thoughts on episodes like this where he had a bit more to do than just play Orin. I suppose I should have reread his entry on this episode before I watched it, actually, but I'm sure he had a lot of fun playing Kobana, and if he didn't, I'm sure he will let us know at the end of this randomizer. So the crowd are cheering this fight between Tilden, the Saganian, who's currently losing, versus, I think his name's Ogre of Elron. And I think probably the reason I associate this episode with me not enjoying it as much is, once again, we have, it's not a nightclub, but it is this sort of party, social, gathering type thing, similar to what I was talking about in Deadline. And Space Precinct nightlife, social life scenes are just embarrassing. I think I said before, a Demeter City nightclub is where the 80s went to die. And while this is not the worst, because everyone is supposed to be sort of quite well off, there are some really bad fashion decisions and hair choices being made here.
All right, then why don't you do what I'm thinking?
No problem. I can walk a straight line.
Okay, I do love this joke of the Tarn using his telekinesis to levitate himself so that he doesn't have to walk along the red line to show off how drunk he is. That's a rare and very welcome sort of touch of the show using the alien characters and cultures and abilities that it's set up. Wish we could have had more of that, really. Brogan's going to walk out of shot, and his stunt double is going to be thrown back into shot. Unless that was Ted Shackelford, it might well have been. I imagine he was probably up for doing a lot of the action and the running around and chasing people with guns and such. But yeah, now we're having this chase scene through some back streets of Demeter City, and it reminds me of what I was saying during Deadline, and even as I was saying it during Deadline, I had a feeling that I almost instantly regretted it as soon as I said it. I was talking about the street scenes in Demeter City,
to a police officer.
how they never really look too realistic because they're so brightly lit and it looks so artificial. But here, this episode, they've really toned the lighting down. Obviously, it's taking place at night anyway, so that helps. But they did definitely learn something, I think, from the early episodes like Deadline, like Enforcer, where the streets are just so brightly lit. And I'm sure even at this point, they're not working with a huge amount of set, but they're really making the most of what little they've got, and the lighting definitely helps.
Romic's granddad. He was one of Demeter City's first cops.
I really like this subplot with Romek and his granddad, Zadek, I think his name
Romek
is.
thought he'd show him round to impress him.
Oh, Slow-Mo's just turned up with a floppy disk sticking out of his head. That's so quaint.
The Donut Man Castle.
Is that what he's got?
Thanks, Slow-Mo.
Oh, okay, right. Anyway, yeah, going back to the Romek's granddad subplot. The Orin and Romek stuff in this show, I really love the characters. But when they had to be given like a subplot, it was never really sort of anything too impressive. Much like the Slow-Mo stuff, it was more sort of there for the kiddies, really, I think. Well, no, actually, I suppose even more for the grown-ups.
Negative.
But it was rare that they sort of treated them as genuine characters. They were just there to be the comic relief.
In a single swipe.
So, I really find this Zadek stuff quite touching throughout this episode.
What's so funny? Nothing. Lieutenant.
Tuck and Castle are laughing at footage of a donut thief. This is...
So, what's so funny?
Again, this is more really good character stuff. It's quite sweet.
What's up, then?
Well, listen, a guy came out of emergency a little while ago. He's got a blast wound to his shoulder.
Now, this is the first episode in production order, I think. I could be wrong. Which shows that Sally is working at... Is it Demeter Memorial Hospital? I think that's right. Or Demeter City Hospital. I could never figure out which was which. Up until this point, she had just been Brogan's wife. And she didn't really have any role in the show other than that. And I suppose it makes sense. They don't have a medical sort of officer on the station. So it's kind of handy to have at least a medical consultant that they can refer to. And I think it's a much...
Tried to slip onto Altor twice.
It's a much better role for the character than a wife and mother because I don't think Sally does those jobs particularly well. As we saw in Hate Street, she isn't above just storming out for absolutely no reason.
All right, I'll see what I can do. And in the meantime...
Haldane and I are going to the hospital.
Why don't you two go to the hospital?
Again, more lovely banter between... Demeter City Hospital, yeah, that's where we are. Between Brogan and Haldane and Podley. Again, I really like the cast of this show. It's all very well cast. And with Jerome Willis, even under all the animatronic makeup, he is still terrific. I don't think he gets much to do in this episode acting-wise, but certainly there are several moments during the course of the series where he's like, you're really sort of, yeah, Podley, you're awesome. Shame he didn't get more, really.
You asked me!
It's a very close quarters fight scene on the roof of Demeter Hospital here. Not entirely sure it comes off, but it's definitely still an improvement over similar things in earlier episodes. And again, we've got so much atmosphere in these nighttime shots, so much, smoke and fog looming around the place.
Don't do it, Tilden.
Broken.
Oh, well done, Sally. They could talk him down, and now...
You all right?
Yes. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's a fairly appropriate response to Brogan's wife just blundering in for no reason and ruining her husband's negotiation with Tilden just to go, ah. That really sums up how useless she generally is.
All units, do not close on suspect. Repeat, allow suspect to continue. Copy.
It's PA!
Copy, Lieutenant.
Oh, Zadek is lovely, and I think this is definitely Wayne Forrester doing the character and the voice for this. And he did quite a few characters in this scene. Usually, in this series, and usually he was dubbing his own characters as well. He provided the voice, and I think there's more than one episode where he appears as a human. I think Smelter Skelter, Death Watch. Was he a coroner or a forensic or something along the line as well? Possibly.
This guy's leading us somewhere. Why is he playing hide and seek?
Damned if I know. You stay here. I'm going in.
Oh, that's great. I'll make sure to tell Sally those were your last words.
You're a funny guy, Haldane.
I do like these characters. I'm sorry, I know a lot of people are probably going to look at this show and think, oh, these are bad characters. I have read reviews to that effect where, you know, it's the same nonsense you hear with all of the live-action shows. Oh, they're puppets without the strings. Cheap joke. I don't see it with this show. I do think there are maybe one or two awkward performances early on. I think, as I said in Deadline, Simone Bendix was the main one. But by this point, this is about midway through the show, episode 12, I think. Everyone's really gelled very nicely.
The weapon, and I'll listen.
It's one of the benefits, I think, of watching all this stuff in a completely random order. It does give you a greater sense of how things improved and evolved and changed. So now Tilden is recounting the events of his escape from Barner's club to Brogan and Haldane, and again, I'm looking at these people in the background. Most of them are human. There are very few alien characters in here, but a lot of them have very strange tattoos on their chins, on their foreheads. I mean, there's one who looks like he almost has the Chris Barry H on his forehead from Red Dwarf. Oh no! Oh, okay. So Tilden just won the fight, and he's just fallen off the table. All of the extras are sort of hugging and cheering, and there's this one extra there who was looking for someone to hug, but he didn't have a partner. That was quite sad. Oh, why couldn't they have given him a partner?
I realized I'd made a mistake.
Poor random guy.
Barner still had Nilim. My son. You've got to help me get him back.
Well, have you considered not having a son? I mean, I've considered it quite a few times, and I can see the benefits.
Hey, Barner, you promised me more than this.
I'm sorry, it was a slow night.
It's kind of strange looking at Kobana here, knowing that that's Richard underneath. Knowing what his voice sounds like. And just not being able to hear it.
Oh, there's no easy way to say this, kid, but,
There's new Gerry Anderson things happening all the time. See, it doesn't work if it's not in his voice.
Come on, we better be moving.
Oh, one of the Creon henchmen that Barner's got there. He's got an insanely small mouth. It looks like he's puckering up his lips for a kiss. It's quite disturbing.
And 3.
Oh, Orin and Romek rappelled in through the ceiling. Oh, I have a feeling that that wasn't Richard playing Orin there, actually. I remember that from his book quite well. Aww. So they've raided Barner's club, found nothing, but Grandpa Romek has decided to pay the crime scene a visit to give them the benefit of his expertise.
Clean out of my head. I thought I had it, but now it's gone.
Come on. Hey, what are you doing up here anyway?
I thought I had it, but now it's gone clean out of my head.
And I remember from whichever podcast it was that Wayne Forrester was interviewed on, I think he said that during his time on Space Precinct, that was when he really got into voice acting. And it was a very good, very lucrative decision, I think. Not just for the fact that, I mean, he got to play Captain Scarlet as a result of that, which is just brilliant. But he is giving this character, this Grandpa Zadek, so much warmth. He's so likable.
Oh, man, now where'd he go?
Yeah. So where's the Saganian now?
I love this scene in Podley's office, because it is, on paper, it is just a basic, let's recount the plot thus far, Brogan and Haldane and Podley. The fact that we've got Zadek in here, playing with Podley's mementos, playing with a little toy car, and the fact that Podley is
bad judgment to drivel 2 immigration.
He's encouraging it. He's just handing him random bits of memorabilia from his stand by the door. It's great fun.
Co-Barner's Private Supper Club, live entertainment.
No, that sounds like a hell of a night.
The only thing that's missing is the address.
Where'd you get this?
Oh, it was in my pocket.
Well, we know that he lifted it from a rubbish bag. And again, there is really no reason for this character to be here other than for the subplot. But they're making really good use of him to accomplish things that normally would just, like,
Hey!
I don't know, fall into their laps. It's
Orbital.
Oh.
Matt, is that any way to greet a guest in our home?
So Brogan has now brought Tilden home to stay with them. And his kids are just staring at him like he's something remarkable rather than a...
I was just resting
sort of,
after the night shift.
He's just wearing this crummy old jacket. Are they used to sort of middle-aged men? Are they not used to middle-aged men? It's like, wow, they're staring at him with such awe.
I'm not disturbing.
You ever hear of a comm call, Brogan?
I gotta get this. We're going to be using this study as a base of operations. Just for the next couple of days, I gotta get this.
This is another odd running thread through this show that Brogan repeatedly brings home various waifs and strays and other assorted people who don't have a home to stay with his family for a while. And you would think that by now, Sally would be prepared for this. They would have a spare bed permanently set up because this happens so frequently. But again, as always with Sally, she acts like it's a huge inconvenience to her and her alone. And she's supposed to be the loving, supportive wife. I don't buy it.
Thanks a lot. You can go now.
You and me.
Well, that's what I'm trying to talk to you about.
Excuse me. Officer Took's trying to raise you on comms.
That's a rather fun way to get out of the usual Haldane and Castle banter stuff. Slow-mo just rammed into Haldane's backside. It's quite sweet.
So long since I felt at peace. You've a wonderful home, Lieutenant, a lovely family.
Well, if he has, I've not met them yet. I'm sorry, it's probably not fair of me to keep dissing Brogan's family. He wouldn't approve of that. But, he could do better, I think.
Emphasize line 8 between 20.3 and 30.6.
Oh, see, this is, something that's not unique to...
Enhance, please.
Oh, there it is. There's that word. Computers on television, when they have things split up into like a vector grid. And that was a really nice model shot of the warehouse where the snuff fights are going to be taking place. Lots of beautiful models around the place. I think I might be looking at the police cruiser from Space Police there. Anyway, this beautiful model shot, and then Castle tells the computer to put up this grid, and suddenly you can't see anything. And then she says that word, enhance. And that word always works in 90s computer-related shows. It's quite sweet, but even at the time it was like, no, this isn't how they work.
Hey, what's with the mask?
He doesn't want to be recognized.
That is a really cheap way to disguise the fact that Tilden has just walked straight past people that he used to work with. And he's just holding this little face mask up on a stick. I mean, all you have to do is walk to the side of him and you can see that is the guy who escaped from your snuff fights just a few nights ago. How thick are these people?
We'll take the far away.
Anyway, Brogan, Haldane, Castle, Took and Tilden are now at the snuff fight, but we have a situation. How do we get past the guard?
Excuse me, honey.
Oh, we will snog Castle while Took lures him away with her skirt. Opens the door for them, and I can't actually remember why they're going into this room.
Good thinking.
Yeah.
kabuki doll things.
Already done the freeze pot.
Why don't you two try it then?
Oh, there's that Creon with a very tiny mouth.
Excuse me.
His mouth is smaller than his eyes. And I know the Creons have got very large eyes, but he just looks like he's making kissy faces at everybody.
Your father has really let me down.
Something I admire about Richard's performance in this show is very he brings certain physical quirks and characteristics to his performances. Orin is constantly stroking his hair, and with Barner he's sort of he keeps touching his chin, stroking his beard.
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't dance.
That Creon with the small mouth is back. I've never noticed this before. How have I not noticed how ridiculous this guy looks?
Who are you?
As much as I'm not disliking this story as much as I thought I would, it's the
truth.
Orin Romek Zadek stuff is just brilliant. Well, part of me wishes he could have come back, but I think maybe less is more in something like this. It worked once, but unless you had a really good reason to bring him back, probably best not to. But there was also a part of me, even at the time when this show was first on, that wanted to see just an Orin and Romek centered episode, if not an entire show around them. They're just such lovely characters, especially when you pair them up with a third person like that, whether to be the straight man or to be something even sillier than they are. Great fun.
Brogan of Earth!
It's never explained how Barner manages to get people to magically appear in this ring. He just points his cane, there's a puff of smoke, and suddenly the person is there in the net. Then he points it again and the net disappears. There's no, teleport transmat type thing hinted at. It just happens. I'm not sure why that is. Now Barner's poking Tilden with a staff, working him up into a rage enough to kill Brogan in the snuff fight. And I imagine episodes like this were quite problematic for schedulers, because there isn't really much on the surface here that would appeal to kids. Obviously, kids who've been watching the show for a while will sit and watch this episode because it's another episode of the show they like. But on the surface, it's not really grown up enough to be just a grown-up show. But there's also a bit too much going on. I mean, you don't hear the word snuff fights in many family shows.
If he's got the flamestone, Brogan hasn't got a chance.
We gotta find a way to cut the power.
So, Haldane and Castle, having been captured, they've escaped their bonds, and they're now trying to cut the power to the sort of electrical ring that runs around the ring, which kills any players thrown onto it. And this scene was one of several that was... Well, there were many scenes when this was shown on the BBC that were edited before transmission, edited to remove various bits of violence and horror content. This scene...
Hold it, Haldane. You'll fry.
I mean, Haldane's just about to jam a wire coat hanger into an electrical junction box. This entire scene was reshot much later in the production history of the show. I think it was reshot during one of the two-parters. So there's this completely different sequence where instead of ramming the coat hanger into the junction box, they just open the panel on the box and that cuts the power. Slightly odd. But then it is a fairly odd scene to put into what you're hoping is going to be a family show anyway. You know, one of your lead characters jams a metal coat hanger into an electrical junction box. I'm not surprised they insisted it be reshot. Anyway, so the cavalry is now here. Orin and Romek and presumably some other people. We saw lots of cruisers landing, but we never see anybody other than our 6 main beat cops. Brogan has escaped from the ring.
Oh man, I love this job.
With his catchphrase intact.
It's disappeared.
Now we have to go after Barner and Tilden's son Nilim.
I've got the boy!
This ending sequence of Barner and Nilim heading down the tunnels, being chased by Tilden and Brogan and Haldane and Castle. It's nice to see something different, and this underground sewer system does look very convincing. I'm not sure why is there a bicycle? Don't know who's cycling their way around the sewers, but anyway, it's not...
Don't do it, Tilden!
The chase itself...
Is that the way, man?
You just get lots of different reaction shots of various people.
You said you wanted an end to killing.
But I'm imagining these sewers are probably, at least in part, a redress of these circular tunnels that I think first appeared on the Talon Princess and the Snake, and then were repeatedly reused over and over again. I mean, even the Precinct 88 station house has this network of circular tunnels. But they've made a good job of making them look grimy and sewery here.
And as for you, Officer Haldane, I'm a cop from the morning when I put on my badge until I take it off at night. Do you understand? I'm a professional.
Me too.
And that's why I'm now going to go home and sniff your dress. That's not me being rude, that is actually what it appears Haldane is going to do. He has still got the bottom section of her dress, which he used to insulate himself when he was ramming the coat hanger into the electrical junction box. It's a fairly... it's probably one of the few moments where the Castle Haldane thing just slightly crossed the line.
So, are we under arrest?
No. I'm here to help you find a job. Fill out these forms. Anything you don't understand, ask.
Welcome to Demeter City.
Yeah, I really like the ending of this episode, that they've helped do some good. They've helped this father and son stay on in Demeter City and find work. So that was illegal, and still not one of my favourites. Still not the worst. It's okay. It's average. I still don't like the look of the Demeter City nightclub thing. I think that is always going to be a problem for me with this show, especially the extras, the odd tattoos, the strange hair colours. But what worked was the Grandpa Romek and Romek scenes. They were very sweet. So yeah, not one of my favourites. There are worse episodes. I'm not in a hurry to watch this one again anytime soon, but I wouldn't be too averse to seeing it come up again.
Illegal!
Oh,
no.
Richard, Space Precinct makes you very happy, doesn't it?
Of course it does, of course it does.
Makes me happy too.
Yeah. Another John Glenn episode, of course, the great James Bond directed that one, and very nicely asked me to play another role, so it's one of those episodes where I doubled up. Not only was I Orin, but I was also Kobana, the ringmaster. And the fighter ranger. Oh, it's completely out of character, isn't it? Cast against type. Now, there's a sequence in there.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to come clean here. I haven't heard this randomizer yet. So I don't know if Chris has mentioned this. So if he has, forgive me. But there's a sequence in there that was reshot several weeks or even months later, where I think Haldane and Jane were, I think, in a cupboard. I mean, it's all very hazy now, yes, as you can imagine. And he used, I think, a bent coat hanger to sort of fuse a fuse box to power down the lights or something.
Yeah.
And, well, the BBC weren't happy with that at all, of course, because they didn't want children up and down the land to copy him. So they had to reshoot a sequence, and I think he used Jane Castle's skirt as some kind of insulator to pull the fuse from the box. That's my memory. But how do we know it was shot many weeks later? Because Haldane's hair is very, very different. In the meantime, it had grown so much longer than it was that they greased it back, they plastered it back over his head in an attempt to disguise how long it was.
But it didn't work.
No, well, once you know, it stands out like a sore.
You can't unhear this.
No, exactly.
You'll be able to unsee it now.
Yeah. But yes, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed filming Illegal very much. It's nice. It's always nice playing a couple of roles. You know, spending more time on set is always fun.
Yeah.
And John Glenn was delightful.
Even more hours in makeup.
Well, yes, indeed, yes, that's right. Do you hear from John Glenn at all? I mean, I know he's still around. Have you seen him?
Yeah. Well, Mum sees John and his wife Janine quite regularly.
Lovely.
So I think they've just moved house, in fact.
Great.
There you go. There's some fascinating news from the Gerry Anderson universe.
You heard it here first. Well, possibly, unless you know John yourself, then you probably heard it here second.
Yeah. Well, one of the two. Yeah. Anyway, you've definitely now heard it.
Yes.
No, they're very well. They're very well. Richard, I have to ask as well, you know when you had your alginate head cast done?
In the very early days,
Yeah. How did you find that?
Now, I didn't mind that at all. Now, there's a couple of myths about this. People always, and I was told before I went along, my friends told me, well, they'll put straws up your nose so you can breathe. That's a no-no. That doesn't happen because obviously straws up your nose, it just takes someone nudging that straw and you're in a bit of, that's quite painful. So I remember it actually being quite soothing. I know some people found it a rather difficult process to endure.
Yeah, a bit claustrophobic.
Yeah, but it warms up as well. That's the weird thing. So they put all this gloop on your face and then they put plaster of Paris over the top of it. And that's where the heat comes from. And it was Richard Gregory who did the live cast with me.
Who's very nice. And
exactly. There was music playing in the makeup room. He just kept chatting and talking, as he does. But
aromatherapy oils.
Yeah, pretty much. And actually, it was during that process that I happened to say to him, "So, Richard, how many people are you seeing for the part of Orin?" Because I knew this must be quite an expensive process. They couldn't be doing it to so many people. And he said, "Well, let's just say you're on a short list of one."
Oh, bless him.
And I thought, wow, okay, right.
That's cool.
So this is looking promising. But yeah, it was an interesting process. If you ever get a chance to have it done, I recommend it. It's quite fun.
Yeah. I think I'd probably be all right with it, but
I've had it done a couple of times in my career for other projects as well.
Amazing stuff to go through, really.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's some behind-the-scenes info for Space Precinct.
Whether you want it or not.
And if you haven't seen Illegal or any of the other Space Precinct episodes, then why don't you get yourself the DVD? The complete series is out now. Yes. You can get it from shop.gerryanderson.co.uk and other purveyors of digital video discs.
Excellent. Yes, that's right. And we know that some of you out there have been receiving it over the last couple of weeks because you've been tweeting us pictures, which has been great. So thank you for that. So in the meantime, do get in touch with us as we head towards the close of this particular podcast. If you'd like your emails read out in any future pod, you can send them to podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. You can get in touch with us on Twitter. I'm Jamie Anderson or Richard M. James. Hashtag us Gerry Anderson Podcast. And of course, please subscribe to us on whatever platform you're listening to us on. Rate us, review us, and share us with your friends so they can hear us too.
Exactly. Yeah. And I just also put out a call if anybody wants to follow our other channels.
Oh, yes.
We're Gerry Anderson TV on Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. Gerry Anderson Official on Facebook. And of course, you should go onto the website and subscribe to the newsletter because we do some goodies there each week. And there's always a deal of the week on. You can get 50, 60, 70% off an item each week.
Great.
So well worth subscribing to.
Yes, lovely. Actually, we should be doing that throughout this podcast, shouldn't we? Telling people where they can sign up and join in and so on, rather than leaving it till the very end. So we'll make a note of that for next time. Because I think people will want to know where they can follow the latest Firestorm videos or find the Facebook page and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, well, Firestorm's a separate thing, of course,
well,
isn't it?
Yes,
so.
Yes.
Firestorm HQ on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, SF9, Firestorm on Twitter, etc., etc. Anyway, enough info dumping now.
Yeah.
Should we go away?
Yeah, let's go away.
Cool. Have a great week, everyone.
Have a lovely time. Thanks for joining us again. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Stage 1 complete.
Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
What pros, eh?
Aren't we just?
So what are you doing now?
I'm waiting in, Jamie. I'm waiting in for a delivery.
Is it a delivery of a Blu-ray box set?
Yes,
by any
I
chance?
think it might be. I think it might be. And I have to wait in for it
Mine-
because they tried to deliver it on Friday, and I wasn't here, of course.
How come everybody else is getting theirs on Friday? Mine said yes, Monday, but I pre-ordered it the minute it went live.
Well, I don't know, Jamie.
Probably because I'm in the back end and beyond.
Exactly right. So I've got to wait in for that. Aside from that, I'm just going to just rest up for the day.
You've got to take care of that
exactly.
brewing cold. And are you in the kitchen because you've got washing up to do?
Always washing up to do. Yeah, every time I come home, there's washing up to be done. That's not a complaint, by the way. I'm just.
That sounded like one. I'll email Charlotte.
No, I enjoy washing up. We've actually got a dishwasher, but I prefer to wash up. I find it quite soothing, quite therapeutic.
God, the things you find therapeutic: washing dishes and having your head inside an alginate mold.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, maybe is that just me then? Yeah, it's just me.
Weird.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's probably more than I want to know about you.
All right,
so,
well, you did ask.
I'll leave you to it.
All right.
Have a lovely day and enjoy the Blu-ray.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.